So over the years, I've made a lot of mistakes with fitness training. And in some ways, I think that's just part of the process that we all have to go through. You have to play around with things, find what works for you, see what you like, see what you can stick with. But given that my current philosophy with training has to do with trying to create capability and agency in being able to do the things that we want to do in everyday life, here are 5 things that I think I would have benefited from had I known them when I started out training in the gym. My name's Andrew Moore. I'm a personal trainer and movement coach from Toronto, Canada. And what I'm trying to do with this channel is bring some intention and mindfulness to fitness training. If you like what you see, maybe subscribe to my channel and keep up with what I'm putting out there in the world. So the first thing that I would suggest to anybody just starting out in the gym is starting with 2 to 3 full body workouts per week. I think it's really tempting to want to jump into high volume training. We often see that style of training on Instagram and on social media, influencers and athletes who are basically paid to live in the gym. And we want to emulate that, partially because they look really good, but I think it's also because that's what we're sold. I think we're sold this idea of spending 1 to 2 hours in the gym 4 to 5 times a week. And I just don't think that that's necessary, especially if your goal is just longevity and just living a better life. Full body, 2 or 3 days a week with a relatively simple structure in the workout. You hit your push variation, your pull variation, your squat variation, and your hinge variation, and you're hitting every major muscle group as long as you're pushing it hard enough while not pushing it too hard and giving your body enough time to recover. You're going to make progress and you're going to see benefits that spill over into everyday life. So a push variation would be something like a push-up or overhead press or a bench press. Your pull variation is anything like a pull-up or a row. Your hinge is a deadlift, kettlebell swing, Romanian deadlift, and your squat is either a bilateral or unilateral squat. So either a barbell front squat, kettlebell front squat, split squats, lunges. So it's relatively simple as long as you pick the variations that you know you'll stick with and the rep schemes that help you hit your goals and hit that 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to see a lot of benefits. But none of it really means anything without number 2, which is training through a full range of motion. I don't want to make it sound like there's no benefit to training through partial ranges of motion. There is a time and place for training through partial range of motion, especially if you're working through a sticking point. But in general, for most people, performing each exercise through the entire range of motion of the joint will give you all the benefits that you're looking for, as well as strength at both end ranges of motion. So in the case of a pull-up, say, if you go to a commercial gym, often you see people doing these partial pull-ups in the kind of middle range of motion. And that is because the hardest part of the pull-up is the 2 end ranges of motion, where your chin is above the bar and also where you're at the full dead hang. If you do only train that mid-range of motion, you're going to be leaving a lot of progress on the table. And like I said, training through that full range of motion does tend to make the exercise more difficult, which brings me to my next point, number 3, which is steady progress over quick gains. Another reason why you'll see people performing exercises through these partial ranges of motion is because they're trying to sort of rush progress. And this is something that I did a lot when I was starting out. I would maybe do a bench press. I don't really bench press anymore because I have angry shoulders, but when I did used to bench press, I would probably come down 3 or 4 inches off my chest and then maybe not get up to full lockout at the top and just train that range of motion. And the reason that I did that was because I was training alongside people who had a lot more experience than me. I wanted to catch up to them. And I would be trying to cut corners. You see a lot of people fall into this trap, and I don't blame anyone for it. Nobody wants to feel like the newbie in the gym. But if you take that extra time at the beginning of your journey and really get strong through the full range of motion and really take your time with loading things up and being conscious of how you are progressing the weights, by the time you get to the, 2-plate deadlift or the 185-pound bench or whatever the like basic benchmark you want to set for yourself is, you'll be performing at a level that will carry you further infinitely with each of the exercises that you've chosen to do. When you try to rush progress and try to throw too much weight on the bar and then cut the range of motion short, you're opening yourself up to a lot of opportunity for injury, burnout, exhaustion. What we really want to be able to do is to show up for our next session and continue to make progress. And the key to making progress in a physical practice like strength training is consistently showing up, whether or not you're giving it 100% every single time. Just showing up, performing the exercise, and treating it as a skill that you can get better at will allow you to get better at it. Which takes me to my next point, number 4, which is don't chase the pump every session. The pump as that sort of feeling that a lot of us chase when we first started at the gym, that feeling of exhaustion, that feeling of the muscles having been worked out, almost like, the blood has been pumping to the muscles and you just kind of feel powerful. I think there's a time and place for chasing that feeling, but it's not every session. I would say the majority of progress happens when you show up and do that sub-maximal work that makes up the majority of any sort of fitness program or any sort of movement practice. You're priming your body for the maximal efforts without taking it to the extreme. Because when you do prioritize fatigue, prioritize chasing the pump, you start to open yourself up again to the potential for injury and burnout. You start to make it less and less likely that you'll show up for each subsequent session, and you'll actually make less progress. If your goal is strength or even hypertrophy, all of the adaptations to the stimulus that you're giving your muscles in the gym take place in between the sessions when you're recovering and resting. I think we have this idea of fitness generally, especially as we're starting out, when our conception of fitness comes from reels and marketing, we start to almost fetishize the struggle, that feeling of exertion. And again, I think there is a time and place for that. But when we prioritize it and chase in every session, we are opening ourselves up for injury and burnout and fatigue, and we're prioritizing the gym. And like I said at the beginning of this video, my philosophy revolves around training for life outside of the gym, just to be able to live a better life, a more connected life. And so if we're prioritizing chasing the pump every single session, in my mind, I think the priorities have been a bit skewed, and you don't want to hurt yourself and you want to rest and recover. And that is point number 5, which is work hard and rest harder. So if you're showing up to the gym 2 to 3 days a week, you want to work hard during your sessions. You want to push your exercises, your push, your pull, your hinge, your squat variations, have the rep scheme that makes sense for the goals you want to hit. You're training through a full range of motion. You're prioritizing steady progress. You're not chasing the pump every session, and you work hard, and then you go home and you rest. You want to prioritize living life outside of the gym, resting, spending time with your friends, spending time with your family, your loved ones, eating good food, reading a book, sitting in a park. You want to work hard, but you want to rest just as hard because, like I said before, that is where the adaptation to the stimulus that you're putting your muscles through in the gym occurs. You want to eat enough protein. You want to give your muscles time to recover so that when you show up for the next session, the second or third session of the week, that you are ready to go and able to push it so that you can then recover and come back. You want to make this a part of your life that you can show up for, trying to approach it as building a habit as you would any other sort of habit, slowly building up, being cautious and mindful with the loading and the progressions, making sure that you are also getting the adequate sleep, nutrition, and recovery. That's where you're going to really see the most progress and set yourself up for a long and healthy lifestyle. So that's the 5 things. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked that video, maybe hit that subscribe button and sign up to my newsletter. The link is in the description below, and keep up with what I'm putting out there in the world, and I'll talk to you next time.